Welcome back to another episode of First Shoots, and in today's video I'm just going to cover off the second half of the Swans versus Carlton. It was just a slog. It's plain and simple. The way that Sydney was able to get back into the game though was purely through work rate, by getting numbers to the ball, being able to have balance, and they're 1%ers, so they're tackling, and I'm going to highlight their smothers as well. There were some key smothers throughout that second half, but it was all about work rate. In the wet, slippery conditions, they just played basic footy, and that's how they were able to get back in the game. I thought the Carlton was playing really well in the first half, but there was definitely a flick of the switch at half time for Sydney to get back into it. So let's look at some clips now. So the second half was led by Heaney and Warner, and in particular a little bit too Grundy, but most importantly was the fact that Heaney and Warner led in the second half, and it was simply work rate. So there's a slow play on the wing here. Just show you the work rate of Heaney. Here he is here, and I think also too when you come up against sides like Sydney, when you see such an important player. So I'll sort of scroll it. So there he is there. He's sort of in the middle between two Carlton players. I think that's when you've got to really identify who's around you, who your surroundings are. So these Carlton players here have to identify, hang on, he's a pretty good player, this guy. We've got to try and body up, check. So the ball gets kicked long. Still no one's on him. He's calling it. When the ball goes to the stop play, or goes to a contest, no one's checking on him. No body contact at all. So, and he's square of the target, as I keep saying, very square to where the drop of the ball is. And no wonder, there's no one checking him. So, I think you've got to have understanding of, you've got to set up your zone, but you also got to be aware of who's around you. It's like playing against Carlton. If Paddy Cripps is near you got to check him. These guys are so good, doesn't matter what conditions they are, at getting the ball. And guess who gets it? So if you do the work early and you check those players, at least you give them a bit of contact. At least they're trying to think about you, then the ball. But at this point in time, all Isaac Heaney was worried about was the drop of the ball. They get it here, out, another inside 50. So the start of the third quarter, it was simply work rate. They got more numbers to the contest. When it's wet and the conditions are not suited for dry footy, in a sense, a lot of players are slipping over last night. One of the key things is to get more numbers to the ball. So you still got to have a bit of balance, but sides are not going to take as many risks. It's hard. The ball's slippery. Players are slipping over. You saw it a few times last night where the player thought it was going to go, in a particular spot. The ball was switched because it was an incorrect disposal, and they slip over. So in this play, I'll just go through it with you. It was just simply work rate. So 1%ers. So getting your hand on the ball, coming up at the player, and look at the numbers that Sydney end up having as opposed to Carlton. So they just simply outworked him in the second half. So come up the player, still involved, one touch, little dinky kick, but that's what it is. When it's wet footy, you just got to get it forward. But 1, 2, 3, onto 1. So they just got the ball moving in their direction. Basic footy, come up at the ball, make a contest, not to give away a free kick, still be involved. Look at the numbers. They're standing. So you've got to transition. You've got to go from a dry footy. This is okay, and if this is dry footy and Wiedering wings the ball, bang, Sard's out. So that's dry footy. But the conditions are slippery. So get more numbers to the contest. That's what you need to do when it's wet footy. Carlton didn't adapt. They were good in the first half, but when the pressure was on, they were too reactive. Now he goes. Got to get there. You've got to get more numbers to the contest. Hands off. Hands. And that play there was really... That particular play there was really a great snapshot of what the second half ended up being in Sydney and why it becomes a great result for Sydney. So this is a stop play inside Sydney's forward line, just as a ruck tap. Pitnet actually hits it this way, and Warner gets it and snaps it. In this particular, for just rucks and for set plays inside your deep 50, always go to the boundary line, or drop it really close, or drop it really close, but where your numbers are. Most teams set up, so you got a plus one there. They often set up like gatekeepers facing towards their goals. But in this particular, Pitnet just hits it. It just whacks it, and Walsh got his back to the play. You like to have Walsh, like those ones I've showed you with Dunkley and Rao. Dunkley never turns his back to the ball. If he's playing on a really important player, as in Warner, he will still still needs to know where the ball is. Welch has no idea. He's just working on his cues, and that's so hard to do. You've got to have body contact, but also be able to know where the ball is. So Welch has no idea where it is. And then you got Warner coming across as well, who could have possibly got a good running pattern there from Heaney. But game over. You just can't give these players like that and that sort of room. Goal. So lesson there is Pitnet, hit it small or towards the boundary line, because that's where your numbers are. Don't hit it into the corridor. And for Walsh, actually get your arms around, get touch and feel, but still know where it's the ball and the rucks. You've got to know where their body position is, because you can't turn your back to that. So once again, this shows work rate. So this is Heaney in and amongst. This is deep inside Carlton's forward line. And just watch the work rate. So there's a lot of movement going on here, which is really good. I like this from Carlton. Have some movement and you dictate terms. That's what you got to do. But for Sydney to get it outside of their deep 50, it's all about work rate. Just like I said before, ability to get numbers to the contest. Dry footy is out the door. When we talk about balance, when I showed you with Saab before, it's out the door. Just get as many numbers to the contest as possible. And this is what Sydney does. So, a great play there. I think it was Durden that came through. Really good. Like, movement, great. But what about the smother? So these are the 1%ers. These are the ones that win you the game. So, there was a number of times last night, Sydney made some great smothers. So smother there. Now Heaney's gone. He's working off. He's been beaten. Yep. But watch the numbers that they reach out. 4 on 1. And just a work rate. There's Heaney there. So just the ability to work in numbers. Get more numbers of the contest. Keep going. Keep working. And now they're out. So really good play, and that sums up their mindset at halftime when they came into the third quarter. It was clearly a message to get more numbers of the contest, play on a bit. You saw a few times where they marked it in the third quarter or the fourth quarter, and you go to the box and Cox is, get the ball moving, get some yardage, get it all happening. Let's play basic football in the wet, but more importantly, let's get more numbers of the contest. So it's a stop play here just to show the 1%ers. Smother. Goes out of bounds. So really good. And now it's a stop play deep inside Sydney's forward 50. Once again, gets the ball down. That's Heaney. So he's missed it. Gets back, balance, smother. Keep it inside the forward 50. Go again. Nearly gets it. And then lays a tackle. Bang. So that forward line pressure, ability to get numbers, but also the work rate. So I love this play. This was certainly another message that they relayed in the third quarter, at three-quarter time. Play on quickly. So the Lizard hadn't had a big game up until this point in time, but then he fired up. So gets the ball and turns back on and this is the synergy. This is, once again, knowing your player. So he's a left footer. If that's a right footer, more often than not, they come this way along the boundary line. But this is really good synergy here. So this is, once again, having understanding of your player's strengths and weaknesses. Right footer, left footer. And this is just a great kick. Just opens up. So he turns back inside and then pulls the trigger and then it goes there. So once again, so even though this player didn't get used, by him going on that angle, what does he do? He creates a space behind. It's a good movement. But there's 2, 3 players understanding that he's a left footer and that he's going to potentially cut back inside. It's like when Essendon play with Merritt. When Merritt swings around his left foot, they're going that way. They're the cues that give you that extra yardage away from your opponent. So I love this. So bang, and they're on. Quick hands. So they create movement. That's why in the coach's box you see Dean Cox. He was just shaking his hands because he wanted to get the ball going, wanted to get some movement happening. Over, and then Grundy, great goal on the run. So once again, this is in the 4th quarter. You create movement from behind. So, and then give the hands. Just go. So he's come. So Blakey's come from here. He's come from the behind and then moved. And then once again, this creates this movement. So he ducks back in on his left. And that's why Warner is leading there, because he's a left footer. You could see that he could dart back. So risky kick, but you take it. You got to try and win the game. Gets back off the mark. He's looking straight away. And I think it ends up being a goal, that one. So the ability to move, it creates movement up in the forward line. So forward of the play, it creates movement when you get that run and link from behind. So once again, just the pressure. So Carlton's out here. Carlton's going left to screen. They're out. Another hand pass. And the pressure there is really important because there's a player free here. So if he doesn't have this pressure from this side, this player would have been able to turn around, look up, and then would have seen this player free. So really good play here from the Sydney player. Just forces them to make a decision. Can't go turn around to his right foot, and then holds, and then McCartney comes off, and great tackle holding the ball. So once again, just the pressure, but the ability as well is that when you look up the field there, Curno's looked and they're all one-on-one. So the transitional running there from Sydney was really outstanding. Then a few centre bounces. I keep saying that this is one of the best sweepers in the game. So Sydney's going right of screen, and it just is what he tends to do. He either starts here and comes at the contest and then sweeps. In this situation last night, he really checked up and bodied up and made sure that he got in early. So really smart play. So he's doing his work early and then be able to shark the tap. So really good. Love him as a sweeper. That's why they always use him as a sweeper. He's really, really good. The next play, so Carlton win it. But this is why being a sweeper and being patient, not getting sucked in the contest, is extremely important. And there he is. Warner gets it, intercept. And away he goes. So he's just outstanding in that role. And then the next centre bounces. Great work, great body work here from Heaney. This results in a goal. But just the ability to push his opponent that way. So he's creating this little window of space just for Grundy to drop it in. And it's important. In the last few clips, Warner was here. So now he's dragged himself a bit further away because this is a really good set play. He wants to create space for Heaney to come into. So ball goes up, drops, and then Rowbottom's really good at reading the cues. One of the best in the game. And look at that. In line, in vision. So Warner, great work here to get Hewitt out of the area. But then you need the support and run, and that's where Rowbottom. So this gets kicked up in the air. And I love this from Campbell, I think it is. So he's on Sard. So he's brought Sard in off the square. So he turns himself inside out, and then Wooshka, goal. So really good play. And this is what I was saying with the Fremantle half forwards. Take your player up. Once the ball's bounced, take your player up and turn them inside out so you're going towards your goals. And then this is just the last contest. Once again, just shows you the numbers that they are able to work for each other. So they run down Sard, get the ball back, and just so many numbers. Quick kick. It's wet footy. Just get it going forward. And I think this is, it's Heaney here. So this is the nail in the coffin for Carlton. And then just the ability to get front and centre again. Great pickup. Goal. So there's nothing sexy about that. Simply all it was work rate and getting numbers to the ball. So getting numbers to the contest, working for each other. Heaney and Warner. It should have been, I think one of the commentators, might have been Joey, was saying that, hey, you need to pick them up. They identify the key players, and he was so spot on because they ran right in the second half. So let's get into the whiteboard, and I'll show you a few drills you can do, in particularly just the kick, get numbers to the contest, a kind of drill you can do that simulates being in the wet. Right, so depending on how much space you've got in the field, whether you're in the 50 or whether you only have opportunity on the wing, this drill is basically a bomb drill. So it's just a kick and bomb. So what it's teaching is getting numbers of the contest, but it's also transitional running. So what you might do is you might just have a couple of bibs, defenders. You might have 3 on 2. You might have 3 on 3, whatever. So you just play a little bit of a mini handball game, right? And you can also set up the forwards as well if you want to. It's completely up to you how you want to run it. But what you basically, the whole purpose of the drill is to do a little bit of a handball game, then blow the whistle, and then they just do a bomb kick. So there's no handball release, there's no running from the pack. As soon as you blow the whistle, the player who's got the ball just has to quick kick it, just bomb it. What that's teaching then is the ability of these players to then transition out of there to the next contest or wherever the ball goes. Set up game simulation, because that's what's going to happen when you've got forwards who are set up in that particular situation. So bomb it. Then once the ball goes there, right, see how many numbers you get there and see what actually happens. So what it's triggering is that transitional running, but it's also trying to identify what actually happens after the contest. The other tricky one you could do is that in relation to having some balance. So yes, you want to get more numbers of the contest, but what happens if this defender bolts out there? So you've got to also be able to not only turn your head, but also be able to have some balance. So the way you do that, say this 0 here bombs it. He's the last in the line. He also needs to be the eyes. So these two go, and say this one goes, he needs to go with him. Because if they do the same thing, quick kick or switch of play, you've got no balance. So the way you can do it is that the guy who kicks it, or girl, the guy who bombs it, is the one that holds, the one that assesses where any loose are, and then if you feel comfortable there's no one there, then you push them to the contest. So you've got to be able to have the balance in that situation. So that's a really good drill to teach. One, transitional running, getting numbers to where the ball goes, and 2, having an understanding of turning your head, knowing that, hey, I'm the furthest away from where the ball could drop, but I've still got to have a mindset to balance and pick up. So you don't want everyone going there, just in case this X decides to flare out laterally for a potential switch of play. So it's a really good drill to put in place. So there you go. So wet footy, get back to basics, get more numbers to the contest, make sure you make it a bit of a scrap. With the training drill I just showed you, just dump foot. Doesn't matter if you've got a dry night. Just try the dump footy. You just never know what's going to happen in those conditions. There was one clear message last night that happened, particularly at halftime from Sydney, was to get more numbers to the contest and try and play on at every opportunity. And that's how they were able to get back in the game, and that's how they were able to get the 4 points against Carlton.